Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Military Retirement Podcast. As always, great to be here on a lovely Sunday morning. Hopefully, it's lovely where you are, John.
It's rather lovely, rather hot, rather humid, but it's not bad. It's not bad. Yeah, good to be
But I
back.
think
Good
it,
to be back.
yeah, I think it's getting hot a lot of places, man.
Mm.
I was, I stepped out yesterday. It was like 91 degrees out here,
Yeah,
and I was working under a tent mostly yesterday. Uh, I'm happy to have that, being under the tent and not having been fully exposed to the sun. But holy, it was like 91 degrees. And yeah, we were just handing out waters like crazy yesterday at yesterday's event. But yeah, man, it's getting there. It's getting hot. Got to hydrate.
yeah. It's certainly getting warm. That's for sure. But then summer's also coming to a quick close, really, really shortly around the corner as well, right? I mean, we're
Hmm.
we're August. We're almost mid-August, so
That's right.
we're
That's
getting
right.
there.
Yeah. So I wanted to get into a few things as we talked offline a little bit, and
Mhm.
just going to get right into it with what's been going on during the week and what I've been able to do here here locally in my community. So yesterday was a volunteer event for the Veterans Village of San Diego. Very cool event. It was to help support fellow veterans who are in need, fellow veterans who are homeless, who require a medical, dental attention, maybe optical attention, right? And they just don't have the means to do that. Maybe they're not covered. Maybe they don't have insurance. This was like an all-encompassing event full of uh, several tents. Like it was literally like a huge like grassy area where they just put a bunch of tents up, and they provided the medical, the dental, the whole VA team was out there. They had a homeless court, which I know one of our previous guests on the show talked about that retired colonel. She had talked about homeless court and how they basically assist, or they're like the liaison for folks who may have had a a or a parking ticket or something that they wanted to get rectified. These people would process it for them expedited. And they also had, what else did they have out there? They had legal aid on the spot, like you get like legal counseling on the spot for whatever issues you might have. Just everything. It was there was like mobile. There was like a mobile eye doctor there. Like
Mhm.
they're actually like they have you pick out the frames on the spot, and they put in your order, and they say, "Hey, come pick it up here in a few days or however long it takes." So they opened up the back of this trailer, and it was like you walk up to this machine, you put your eyes there, and then they kind of do the testing and see what your prescription is. Very cool. And they had food trucks. They provided lunch there. It was really good. Just waters all over the place. It was yeah. There you go. There's my post. Um, and the shirt says, "Together we can end veteran homelessness." Very awesome event for what it is. Just providing a lot of resources to these veterans. I was, if you can't tell, I was in this little grassy patch area. I was working partly in the kids tent, so helping out like kids, and I was just playing soccer with some of the kids, right?
Mm.
Because I don't know, I didn't want to sit under a tent and just talk to the adults all the time. It looked like the kids were having a good time out there too. So um, yeah, just playing with the kids, got to talking with some of them, and one of the parents came by and got to talking to one of the parents. He lived here in Southern California as well. Goes between LA and San Diego when he can. And it kind of it came to a realization for me when I was sitting there talking to him, and his child, who was like 6 years old, and I was playing soccer with, um, looked at him and said, "Hey, Dad, can I get some more food at the tent when we get back to the tent?" And that was like it was a realization for me, like I can go back to my house, to my family. This kid doesn't have that. This kid is he didn't ask his father to go back to the house and have some more food because he's hungry, because the line was long to go get food. Um, he asked him, "Hey, can we go back to the tent and get more food?" And I'm like, "Oh," it kind of hit me because I was having this full on conversation with this gentleman, and he did 17 years in the army, and he was like, "Yeah, yeah, we'll go back to the tent, get you some stuff. We just got to pick up the cats." So apparently they brought like all their animals with them too because they couldn't leave them in the tent. Um, and that kind of it for one, it put things in perspective. Really, how I want to say lucky. I mean, I worked hard for what I have, but really how lucky I was to be put in such a good place, and have my family and been able to know the people that I know and do the things that I've been able to do and not have been put in that position. Um, and then again, it was like, I was so happy to be able to help them in some way, shape, or form, whether it's, give them a goodie bag or give them a hygiene bag or, hey, look, I'll see you at the next, stand down that they have. And I'm looking forward to helping you out however I can next time, or I'm looking forward to helping your son out and, playing baseball or soccer or whatever it is. So I really put things in perspective there. And I came back and it kind of hit me hard. And I looked at my kids and I'm like, look at how good they have it versus like some other people who don't have a place to go home to,
Yeah.
you know. So it was kind of rough to see, but I was ultimately happy to help these folks out and, at least bring a little bit of joy to the kid's face for a day.
Yeah, interestingly enough, at least I haven't come across it outside of the US. I haven't really seen any like homeless veterans or anybody really having like issues with
Mhm.
homelessness outside of the US. And maybe it's just
Right.
something that just hasn't come to my attention yet or not, but I'm sure there's probably some, but I just really haven't seen it in the U.S. Of course, there's tons and tons of cases, and who knows what the reasoning behind it is for? Is it because the veterans benefits are not helping out enough? Is it because there's not enough um, available affordable housing? Is there, the job situation there? Um, and then, of course, adding on things like PTSD and stress and those kind of things that you carry with you throughout your military service. And once you leave the service, no matter how long you served, if it was a couple of years or longer, um, it's just a compounding of a lot of those things together. And I'm glad. I mean, we talked about it maybe a few episodes ago or a few Sundays ago. The VA actually pouring a little bit more money into those helping homeless veterans and also being able to better support them medically in different ways as well. So, yeah, always a good cause.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it is a whole, things are getting more expensive out here. Based on
Yeah.
what I talked to this gentleman about, it is getting a lot more expensive. They were evicted at one point, just simply because they just couldn't make it. The guy,
Mhm.
he he lost his wife,
Mm.
and then he was just explaining to me in any matter that he could, because I understood that it was hard for him to talk about that. Um, he lost his wife, and he's like, at that point, he spiraled down. He went through it like in this black hole, and at that point, like he lost his job because he just couldn't perform. He couldn't focus on what he was doing, and then he couldn't pay the bills. Couldn't pay for his rent anymore, and was evicted. He had troubles finding a job because he was uh, injured while he was in the military. Um, but now, I mean, the dude was like 60 something, right? And now he was, but he was talking about now he just had a talk with somebody at the career tent, and he was a prior like electrician or something in the army. And he's like, yeah, they have some openings there. And it was one of those things where it's like, hey, look, if you have the ability to get a job, let us know. We'll work with you. Kind of like what the VA does with the VA disability claims and all that. Recently, they do like the road shows and they help you out on the spot. Well, they had a tent for that here as well. And then this gentleman's like, yeah, I just talked to somebody over there, and they have openings for an electrician and or whatever he was doing. And um, yeah, it looks like I'm going to be able to do something. I'm like, well, that's awesome, man. I'm happy for
Yeah.
you because it's I'm glad that this organization, Veterans Village of San Diego, was able to get all these people there and do this for them. Um, and unfortunately, not all the people are going to be able to find work.
Right.
Not all the people are going to be able to find housing, right? But I mean, I think it's a step in the right direction, and it's a little tough too, because if you're not aware of some laws that recently came out, or what the governor of California has recently mentioned, is that he wanted to clear all homeless encampments, and there was no follow on guidance with that. So I was just
Right.
talking to somebody about it yesterday, a Navy veteran yesterday that I met. Um, there's no follow on guidance. Like, where are you going to put these tents?
Right.
Like, where are you going to put these people? You know, like you can't. Are you going to just identify an island off the coast and be like, okay, that's where they're going to go? You know, like, where are they going to go? I mean, there's no plan there. The idea was, hey, police, start, you know, clearing out all these areas, and I don't know what happens next. You know, I just don't know. There's a lot of unknowns. So that's something I'm following pretty closely, because I'd like to know too. I'd like to know. I mean, am I going to have a row of tents in front of my house? Am I going to have, row of tents downtown somewhere? Like, where are we going to put these folks? So it's something to think about, because just driving down that area, I mean, I saw a lot of folks that were like living on the side of the road, and it's hard to watch.
Yeah.
And not to say that they're all veterans. I don't know if all those folks living on the side of the road as I drove down there are veterans. But there was a whole lot. There's a whole lot, and I'm like, I I as one person can't do it all, and I'm not trying to do it all. We know we have a whole community here who's trying to do that. Uh, but I think yesterday was like a good step forward in showing that, hey, we're here to actually support you and provide you these services, especially for our home or veterans in a bad place.
Yeah, for those who don't realize, like that's literally how a lot of these organizations, whether it's battling homelessness or
Yeah.
doing community outreach for certain things, that's how a lot of these organizations are able to function, is through the effects of volunteers going to these events and spending their time, their Saturdays, their Sundays, possibly weekdays, hours and hours and hours multiplied by, however many volunteers they get per event that they have or per thing that they do. That's how they get things accomplished. Like it's not that they have this big army and this big team of people. I mean, they do, but they need people to coordinate and do the kind of the nonprofit things. If it's a nonprofit, and usually those kind of things are funded by nonprofits and sponsored by nonprofits. But a
Right.
nonprofit, if you don't understand a nonprofit, like a nonprofit it's like an LLC on steroids. Like you have to have a board of directors and a board of advisors, and you have to have so many people on that board, and you have to have
Yep.
certain P&L sheets for, even though you're not making profit for yourself, but you're making profit for the organization. There's a lot of bookkeeping that goes on. It's involved with doing that. It's not impossible, but it definitely takes a ton more effort than it does to just build a business and do something for whatever, for your personal gain or for the community or whatever it happens to be. So the way they kind of mitigate the offset, because they can't afford to pay people, is they just ask for volunteers, and people come out and do volunteer things. And it's not just necessarily always like something like homelessness shelter work or outreach to homeless communities, but like any volunteering within the community that you're in, it really it puts back so many. You can't really measure it on dollar amounts, but if you think
Hmm.
about like the
Yep.
amount of money that you would spend to employ somebody to do that, and kind of do the math across events with so many people, it's pouring a lot of money back into the community, and helping grow the community and helping make it better. So whether it's doing that, which you just did over the weekend here, or any kind of volunteer work, it's essential. It's essential to building better communities.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I made it a point, because I mean, I had a good time doing it. It really does make you feel good. It really does make you feel good knowing that you're helping somebody else out, a fellow veteran. Um, so I went around to a ton of the tents, and I was just asking, like, hey, look, different organizations, look, do you have any openings for volunteering with your organization? Specifically, I went to like the homeless court. They have a tent there. I went to 0800. I went to a couple other ones out there. And, do you have any openings? I mean, I'm willing to help out with whether filing paper or, applications or, whatever the deal might be, talking to people. I'm not a counselor, but I can talk to folks. I have ears and I can listen. Um, but they directed me to the websites or to talk to different folks. Okay, I'll do that. It's all good. Uh, but yeah, it was an eye-opening experience. It was a good thing to be a part of. And I'd say to anybody out there, any other veterans or anybody else listening, if there's something in your community that maybe you can take part of, something that's helping out your fellow veterans, hey, please do so, because I know they can use all the hands they can get. And it really does make a difference. I think a lot of these folks are walking away with smiles from like the dental tents and the optical tents, because they knew that they were just getting taken care of, not for the whole life, but maybe just that little thing that they needed. Maybe they had a toothache that they were working on, they is messing with them, and they're finally getting looked at. So, or maybe they just live too far away from a VA center, which is the case with one gentleman. He's like, look, I don't have a car. I live in a tent. I'm like, it takes me a while to get to a VA center. He had like a bum leg. I'm like, oh, a good thing that this thing is here. This whole VA tent is here, that they can check you out on the spot. But I get it. It's hard for people to get around sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was my day yesterday, man. It was great. I really enjoyed it. Look forward to the next one. I already raised my hand. Hey, look, I'm here for the next one. If you guys need me, whether it's the kids tent, whether it's whatever, got handing out waters or food, whatever it is, I'm down. But yeah, a very eye opening experience. Very eye opening.
Yeah. Yeah. And if it helps, that if they want to come on and talk about what they're doing and put some information
Mhm.
out there, like by all means, that's totally what we're here for. Like, we're here to spread the information about things like this that are going on,
Yeah.
whether it's volunteer experience organizations or employment or readiness counseling, whatever it happens to be, to help out veterans, to help out people that are transitioning. Any of those things help.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the funny thing is, I was going around as I was navigating the tents. I was going around trying to find the coordinator for the event, like
Mhm.
I guess the CEO or the president of the organization, and their people. But it's like I saw them, but everybody's kind of talking to everybody, walking around, going all over the place. I mean, they're busy, right? It's a huge
Yep.
event. I mean, like
Yep.
the mayor's tent was there. There was like a assembly members' tents there. There's like news channels there, and their trucks. Everybody's taking pictures. So I'm like, okay, well, right now might be a bad time to get a hold of these people. Like, hey, I run a podcast. Do you want to come on?
Yeah.
Uh, they're in the middle of everything. So I was like, you know what? I'll just shoot them a quick email, let them know, hey, look, I was at your event. I want to see if maybe you want to come by and talk to the rest of the community and pass the word, and maybe we can get some more folks out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, very, very busy thing. It was, I didn't want to interject myself in the middle of them talking to the mayor or something. Like, hey, mayor, stand aside. Let me tell you about the military retirement podcast real quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
did run into when I was at the 0800 tent. I did run into this lady. She's a veterans coordinator.
Mhm.
I'm butchering her title because I cannot remember, and I apologize if she's listening. I cannot remember what the title was, but she's essentially the veterans coordinator for the local college here. And she, after explaining what I do, after explaining the podcast, after explaining, the green logbook and all the stuff that I do, she's like, you know what? Let me ask you a question. Why do you think that veterans don't want to ask for help? Why do you think like they want they don't want help from anybody else when they come in? They stand there and they look around and then they just kind of walk away, like when they enter her office. And I mean, these are just people because she encounters a lot of people who are recently off of active duty. And I let her know, I was like, hey, look, from my perspective, from being enlisted, going up the ranks to an officer, seeing all these different sides, I'm like, okay, well, you have to understand that the military is, without taking away from the military, it's kind of a hand holding organization, right? Everything is kind of done for you, right? You're told where to go, what to do, at what time. There's an order for everything you do, how you walk, talk, eat, etc. There's an order for everything. And then once you leave that, you lose all of that, discipline, maybe not in yourself, but the way the organization runs around you. And you're expected that when you walk through a door, somebody's going to give you everything you need on the spot. Like, hey, look, here's what you need. You need to ask questions. A lot of these folks need to learn how to advocate for themselves and ask questions. And a lot of these folks, and she has mentioned to me that she has some veterans that work for her, and many are like in their 40s. And this lady is, younger. She's in her 20s, and she's like, I have issues with getting them to do what they need to do. And I'm like, well, I mean, you have to understand that they're a little older for one, and there's this whole mentality of, she's younger. I'm not going to effectively, like, I'm going to do my thing, and I used to hold this rank, and there's that entitlement almost. She's like, oh, okay, like I see that, but she just had a ton of questions. I'm like, look, I think a good thing would be, if you would like to come on the podcast, and I invited her for a live stream, because she wants to learn how to speak to veterans, and she's learning that whole thing, and she was put in that position, that veterans position at the college, because she knows a little bit about it, but she wants to dive deep into the mentality of a veteran. And I think that's admirable. I mean, that's pretty awesome that, a civilian wants to do that.
Yeah, it takes a special person to do those kind of things at the university level. I know for the universities here, like everybody who works there is a military spouse, basically, essentially. And so they
Yeah.
already have a firsthand, understanding of the military, at least from the active duty side.
Yeah.
But they also want to understand like how some of these veteran things work, like the VR&E, like Chapter 33. Like they understand at a basic level how it works, what needs to be turned in to start these processes, to update the processes so that you get paid for your school and all that stuff. But there's a lot of stuff in the background that happens with veterans, depending on the situation that they gotta, they have to deal with one-on-one. So yeah, it's veterans, and it's funny you mentioned that it's hard talking to veterans. I was just watching the mandatory fun day. He had a post that he put up, and he was like, why do veterans never want to use military grade equipment, and they want to bring their own stuff? And because we're hard-headed, because we've been around the mess so long that we just understand like it's going to be screwed up, so we just want to bring our own crap and do our own thing.
Yeah, we understand that the way the military bidding process works.
Yeah.
And it goes down to the lowest bidder, right?
Oh yeah.
So you're not going to get the best equipment, but it's going to be functional. You know how to function with it. Yeah, you will. And
even if it's $1 cheaper.
That stuff. Yeah, even if it's $1. Yeah, exactly. It might not be the best equipment, but you'll be able to do something with it. Yeah, that's how it was when I went through like what was it, like TBS, the basic school in Virginia. It's like the officer school. And they had this dude outside of the gate, and I heard he's not there anymore. He's out in like Stafford, Virginia, like the main town out there. And they call him the genie, right? Or the gypsy. I can't recall, the genie or the gypsy, I think. This dude was, you'd walk in and he would look at you, and he'd know what training week you're on based on how you look and what you need. He's like, I'm like, I need a navigation. I need a compass. I need, whatever the map, fucking pens and stuff. And he's like, oh, you're on training week 5. All right, I got you. He'd show you to what he needs, right? The gypsy, I think his name was. But yeah, I mean, that his shop would be full of people every week, man. Looking for like upgraded boots, looking for It's the frog gear. I'm like, why do you even need that, dude? You're not gonna like catch on fire. There's not even a fire training event. They're like these super duper matte pens, and I'm like, you don't need all that stuff, right? But people love to spend their money on it because they know like the stuff that you get assigned to you, like grenade pouches and stuff like that,
No,
is not the best stuff.
no.
Shit. I'm guilty of that. When I deployed to Iraq, I went out and bought my own pouches, my own magazine pouches, because the ones that they give you are like go on the side and you have like the sappy plates and all that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I wanted them right here where I got one on my buttstock and I want one right here so I can grab it just in case. But you know, it is what it is. I mean, they give you like the bare minimum, but it's functional. It's functional.
Yeah, yeah, but again, it boils into why veterans are, I wouldn't say grumpy, right? We're not grumpy. We've
Well, I don't know,
been
man. I don't know.
conditioned, right? We've been conditioned long enough to understand certain things, and then we just have this autoresponder that kind of jumps to the forefront whenever we're trying to deal with things.
Yeah, I mean, we can be grumpy sometimes, and I know that people thrive on that stuff
Oh yeah.
sometimes. It was funny because when I walked into that Veterans Village event yesterday, the volunteer event, I had just parked across the street. I walked up to the gate. They had the security guard there, and this gentleman comes up to me, and I had my water bottle in my hand, and he comes up to me in the most aggressive manner, and I'm thinking like, all right, what's this guy doing? And he's like, "What? You don't bring any water for me? What? We're not good enough, or what?" Like, just in the most aggressive manner, and I
Yeah.
immediately, like my senses went off, and I'm like, okay, am I gonna have to like defend myself for one? All right, because it's getting to that point. The guy just walked up to me like this, and then I immediately thought, as he continued talking, I was like, all right, something's going on with this guy. I don't think he's a threat. Let me just joke around with him. And I'm like, hey, what? They're not providing for you? That's on them, right? Do you need me to get you some water? Are you boiling out here? I see you're bald, right? And I'm just like giving him crap, right? And we're just going back and forth. And he's like, he comes up and he puts his hand up and he gives me one of those handshakes. He brings me in for a hug. He's like, hey man, was in the Navy, whatever, EOD or something. And we just got to talking there, and he was telling me how he's a little messed up and he can't get the care he needs, and he's got a bad discharge, and he's trying to get an upgrade. So I was trying to walk him through it. I'm like, hey, you need to submit your appeal through the Naval Discharge Review Board, and then they need to look at it depending on how your case went and what it's all about, what it entails, the charges, etc. They'll be able to look at that a little bit more. But he was a funny guy, but when he approached me like that, I immediately went into like, all right, this guy's a threat really quick. And it de-escalated pretty quickly after that.
Yeah.
Which I'm happy. I didn't want to get into anything at an event like that, right?
You wouldn't expect to have to get into something like that at an event like that, but I don't know.
Right.
The world's a crazy place.
And it reminds me too, like sometimes I joke around like that too with people. And I'm like, is this what I come off looking like? I mean, I'm not like a very small person. So I'm wondering if like I come off as aggressive to people if I'm joking around with them, like at Walmart or something. I'm like, shit, maybe I should back that up a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, I try to take it pretty chill. I try to take life pretty chill now. I just kind of, in the most circumstances, I try to take life just super chill, because for one, it's like it's not worth it, and what sword do you want to die on? And for two is,
right,
just bringing a smile to somebody's face in a genuine way, and because you're kind of reading them and reading their body language and reading the way they are. And I mean, if nothing else, you're gonna go through this whole process when you start your degree program again. But psychology is just crazy, and just kind of being the light in the room. It seems to make a difference. It makes my life a lot easier. It makes my life a lot less stressful.
Yeah, and I've been thinking about that too as I'm ramping up to go to or to start my master's again.
Hmm.
Um, I was I, I found I was at work, dude, and I'm sitting there and I'm looking at different colleges in my area, different universities, right? And I'm looking at their degree programs or graduate degrees, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe this one's cool. And they show pictures of it, and I'm like, all these people are like 25, and I'm like, I'm some 40 something year old man. And it's never. I don't want to say that it's never too late to go to school. It really isn't. I mean, I've seen news articles of 80 something year olds going back to school because
Yep.
that's just something that they wanted to do. It's never too late to go back to school. All right. But it was just kind of like I was expecting, okay, well, more people in their 40s would be going in to get their graduate degrees. That's not the case,
No.
and just looking at these photos, I'm like, man, I'm going to be the grand old man in the room.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to be looking to me to come and, stroke my beard and share some wisdom, the wise
Ru-
sage,
Rub
the
the brass
oracle.
nose to get the
But
magic.
yeah, but I'm like, it is what it is, man. You got to go back to school sometime, and I applaud these folks who are in their 20s and early 30s that are going back and to school again, their graduate degree. That's awesome. It just
Yeah.
so happens that I'm in my 40s and I need to finish it off myself.
Yeah.
It is
It's
what it is.
there's not a lot of people in my class that are my age, my classes that are my age. I mean, I think
Mhm.
the average age is about 20 something, and it's a mix of folks from the States who are actually going to the college, folks that are in the military that are active duty, dependents, and then sort of a kind of there's once in a while you'll see somebody who's a veteran who's either got out or retired or something, but usually just got out after a few years. I think
Yeah.
I'm one of the
Yeah.
few retirees, and the closest I've seen to me age wise is somebody who's getting ready to transition out and get and retire in like the next 2 years or so. But literally, the class that I just finished, one of the people in the class, he's a dependent of one of the active duty members, and he was 18. So
Mm.
it's really interesting. It's an interesting perspective to have because I remember going to school, even 10 years ago, and then even coming out of high school trying to do trade and tech school. So I've seen it at different stages of my life, and at this stage of my life, it's a little bit uncomfortable because I feel like all the stuff that they're teaching me, like it's good information, but come on, it's like seriously, like
Yeah.
why? But at the same time, I get to do a lot of observations, which I do anyway. I don't really generally try to. I mean, I know I do a lot of talking on here, but I don't generally try to like overpower the conversation either way. But I
Mhm.
like to listen and observe and see what they're talking about, and then try to see if there's a way that I can assist or help. Like there was a guy in my class in the physical class. He's trying to figure out like he's going down the path of IT degree and he's looking into programming and possibly programming games. And he's probably in his late 20s, maybe early 30s. He's a dependent, so he's a spouse of a military member, and he has a super deep like anxiety of being around people. So he can't really
Yeah.
function well in public. So he's starting to slowly work his way back into that as well at the same time.
Mhm.
But um, I was like, you just got to get out there and get in some of these. The same thing that we talk about for veterans, right? Get out there, get in some of these groups, get engaged in networking, whether it's online, in person. Go to these forums, go to Reddit, and really just get engaged with the community, whether that's doing your own coding, doing your own work, working with a group of people, doing a project. That's how you get your name up. Like the degree is not going to get you the job. It's it helps maybe in some cases depending on the job, but
Right.
9 times out of 10, like the degree is not going to get you the job. That's going to get you the checkbox on the qualifications list that says must have a master's degree in XYZ, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. The networking piece is huge. It really is. I mean, if you know the right people, maybe somebody in human resources. Hey, push my resume through, or maybe like word of mouth.
Yep.
That's how I got my position here where I'm currently working, through my network. Just because somebody I knew the hiring manager, and they were like, "Hey, yeah, retiree. This guy was the director of this and that. Yeah, we'll take him on board." And that's how I got the position. And it's kind of been like a learning road, or I'm learning along the way, right?
Yep.
Because it wasn't something that I was educated on before. Well, during my time in the military, I was in the Marine Corps. I went to the Navy side, something completely different, a whole new community that I've never even touched before. But you know what? I told them, hey, look, when they asked me, we see that you don't have experience in this specific uh, section. Are you willing to learn? I was like 100%. Why wouldn't I want to learn something new? I'm constantly reading books about different things. I want to learn what you all do, because now I'm curious about it now. So they're like, all right, that's what we want. Somebody who's willing and able, welcome aboard. So that's really how the interview went. It was like a 5-minute interview. It was great. But yeah, I mean, you got to get out there. You got to utilize that network, man, or else things are going to fall apart. That's why they have these networking events. That's why they have these, veterans beer clubs, and that's why they have the in-person with job fairs. Right? You go
Yep.
around shaking hands and give them your resume. Look people in the eye and say, "Hey, look, I can do this for your company if you give me a chance. And here's my resume." And get a name, share your business card. That's how you get it done.
Yep. Yeah, it's remarkable now looking back how useful all that's been. Luckily, I've been the kind of person to do that anyway. I don't even know why, really. I don't know what started me down that path of networking in general, but it's carried with me through my career, even in some duty locations where I was working on an active duty base. I'm working in a reserve unit as an active duty member, so I'm the full-time guy, and I'm on the base with 5 or 6 other reserve units who don't even know that the others exist on the base, right? So just even in a situation like that, like going to the physical door and knocking on the door and saying, "Hey,
Yeah,
I'm Chief so and so, and I'm from the blah 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 unit down the street, and I just wanted to kind of say hi and introduce myself, and let you know if there's anything you should possibly need from the military side of things, or you need help with anything, or if you hit any roadblocks, or you want to just sit down and talk about some of the stuff because we do the same job. Just let me know. Like, here's my number, here's my email address. You can find me on the gal, blah blah blah." And I did that with all the units,
absolutely.
and I just that's the way it literally works. It's literally like door-to-door sales. You literally just go and knock on
Yeah,
the door, introduce yourself, say hi. Don't ask for anything. You can ask for stuff later. Like, ask for stuff much later, but just go say hi, introduce yourself, and maybe try to figure out what pain points that person that you're interfacing with has, and what can you do to
yeah,
potentially offer value to those pain points.
yeah.
That's
No, that's
literally
great
it.
insight, man. Because that's how I was raised in the military as well. Like, hey, look, when you get somebody new that comes on deck, when you have a new commander, a new CO, something like that, making an effort to go and meet that person. As they say, press the flesh
Right.
and shake the hands, right? And look them in the eye and say, "Hey, look, I'm so and so from this section. Welcome aboard, and here's what I can do to help you do your job. Here's
Right.
what I can provide." It's just it's always been like a courtesy thing, right?
Mm.
Like, hey, let me help this person out and do their job, because it's supposed to be one unit, one mission, right?
Right.
But even when it's not my own unit, when there's like another person who was in my position, maybe across the way, and like, shoot, if I was in San Diego and they were in Virginia, "Hey, I heard you came on deck recently. I just want to introduce myself. If you have anything to bounce off me, or if you have any questions, man, I'm here. We do the same job, and I know it ain't easy. So, let's work together on this one." Dude, the amount of times that I've called somebody, not even within my vicinity, like across the country, to ask a question. When I was in station Hawaii, I would continuously call Japan, Okinawa, Japan, to talk to my counterpart out there,
Yep.
because, hey, look, I've never encountered this one issue that's being brought to my desk right now. I want to see if you have encountered it and what you can do or what you have done to overcome that or provide a solution to the commander. And sure enough, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't encounter that same issue. But I'm so glad that I had somebody else there I can bounce this information off of, because and you as well as I do, because we're both chief warrant officers, you are looked at as a subject matter expert.
Right.
What you say goes, right? So the commander or the CO or the OIC is looking at you like, hey, chief, or hey, chief warrant officer, hey, I got this question. I need an answer by so and so time. Oh shit. I got you, sir. Let me track this down. Let me get you an answer. Can I get back to you in about an hour, 2 hours, or noon, or whatever it is? Dude, I'm picking up the phones. I'm like, hey, dog, got this question. I don't know the answer to it. See if you can help me out. You know how it is, man. It's just, that's the essence of networking to me. Getting together, meshing minds.
Yeah, that's the beauty of this community, right? For anybody listening or watching, or I mean, you're generally going to fall in the category of either an enlisted leader or an officer leader or a warrant officer leader or somewhere on that spectrum, but you're not necessarily, like an E1 or a O1 or whatever. You've got some years of experience if you're here sitting here watching or listening or paying attention to what we're saying. That's I mean, that's part of leadership, right? That's part of being a leader. And it doesn't just stop once you take the uniform off. Like, you just need to carry, I think the best way to think about it, right? From a transition perspective, from a getting out of the military and going to civilian life perspective, is you just carry what you did in the military and you just reprogram it to work on the civilian side. Because at the end of the day, you're just talking to people, right? It's just people. Like, people are people, whether they're wearing the uniform or not. Like, if they were in the uniform, we got a little bit more respect and a little bit more rapport with them. But on the outside world, they're the same people with the same tendencies, with the same psychological things going on that we have going on. Like, maybe not on the same scale, right? But at the end of the day, you're just translating those skills that you used in the military to run things, to make shit happen, to go out in the civilian world and do the same thing. Don't be scared of it. It's just people that put on their pants one leg at a time, just like you do. We all breathe the same air.
That's it. I like that. So with that, John, I want to move on to this thing that I was, I know we talked a little bit about it offline.
Mm-hmm.
So I came across an article on, I think it was Navy Times. So I'm always reading like Military Times, Navy Times, Marine Corps Times, or Marine Times. And I came across this article in the Navy Times, and it was about an officer, a lieutenant commander, which is no 4. This guy was, he was brought up on charges for conduct unbecoming an officer and a gentleman for something he posted on TikTok. And let me see if I can pull it up here really quick.
Yeah.
Where the heck is it? TikTok video. And I have to admit, man, when I saw this thing, I started shriveling into a little ball, and it was so freaking cringy to watch, dude. It's terrible, dude. It was here you go. The title is how a TikTok video got one military officer court-martialed. Let me pull it up on here. And for anybody who is listening to the audio, we're going to pull it up on our YouTube channel here.
Yeah. And for those of you who are listening to the audio, if you want to see what we're doing, come to the YouTube channel, or even on Spotify. I think you can see the videos as well, and you can actually see what we're talking about if you want to see and check it out that way.
Yeah, I'll see if I can play it here.
Fuck it up. Don't give a shit anymore. Fuck it up. Fuck it up. Flip the table, screw you all.
This was the video that landed Navy Lieutenant Commander James Dickerson with a court-martial.
Did the sound play on that for you?
Yeah.
It was, yeah. So a little background on this guy. He's like 52 years old. He's sharing this video on TikTok. basically he says he's going on leave and he's like flicking off the camera a singer parody of the Frozen song, Let It Go. But instead of that, it's F It All, right?
Right.
And he was brought up on charges for that, saying that it was unbecoming an officer and gentleman. There was even talks in the article saying that people from his command, like junior enlisted from his command, were commenting on the article with things like, "Sir, come on," like what is this? And I told you why I started crumbling into a little shriveled sack in the corner of my room as I watched this video, because it was super cringy, and I'm like, it was hard to watch from a retired officer looking at an active duty officer and looking at something on TikTok that like everybody can see.
Yep.
This is not just like his thing was, oh, it's only meant for my family. I'm like, well, you posted it publicly, dog.
DM it to your family.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like maybe just text a video of you doing that to your family. What did you think? Did you really think only your family is going to watch a dog? Come on. But yeah, this had me like thinking, for one, everybody sees this, not just people in the US.
Yeah.
Like people that we may have conflicts with, like countries we may have conflicts with, right? TikTok is not owned by a United States corporation. It's a Chinese-based company.
Yeah.
There's things going on, overseas that maybe conflicts that we don't want to, we want to avoid. Everybody watches this stuff, and unfortunately, it makes the military look weak in my eyes. It makes it look weak. I'm like, what are these people doing? They're not focusing on what they need to be focused on, right? This guy is, a warfare officer. I don't know what kind of warfare officer he is. It says it in the description there. But it doesn't look like he knows what the hell he's doing just based on this TikTok. He might be the most effective person ever, but just based on this, he looks like a fool. That's from my perspective.
Well, I mean, I'm curious to understand how many more views it has now that it's been brought to light and brought into a few, you know what I'm saying? Because maybe it had like 1 million views before, but now it's like full-fledged public facing and in news articles and media.
Dude, this thing is going on when I opened up my Instagram, and I don't really open it that often.
Mm-hmm.
When I opened it up, it was like some of the bigger like veteran Instagram channels were sharing it. Like,
no, I bet.
I bet. And I sent it to one of my coworkers who is also a retired lieutenant commander, and he looked at it. He's like, oh, shit. Like, what are my peers doing now? Like, what is the world getting to, right?
Yeah.
And I showed it to my wife, and she's like, you know what? Isn't there like a policy for service members not to be able to put stuff like this online? I'm like, yes, there is. There absolutely is. And I remember having to sign one of those page 11s, those 6105s, not a negative one, just one that tells you understand, you have read and understand the social media policy, right? And let me pull this one down and share that social media policy real quick. And this one is just off the army.mil. This is always like a learning curve for me. Personal use. Okay. So what I'm pulling up now is the U.S. Army or the army.mil online conduct. Right, let me go back to this, and there you go. Online conduct. Let me make this a little bit bigger.
Here, I'll make it a tiny little bit bigger this way. How about that? And you do that. Perfect.
Yeah. Nice. All right. Good stuff. All right. So it's personal use, online conduct. And this one is Army, but I think it kind of touches on what other branches are doing as well.
Yeah.
And specifically, this is for active duty service members, right? Personal accounts must be clearly identified as personal. So if you go on Instagram or YouTube or something like that, you'll see folks that say, not in DOD endorsed channel or not endorsed by DOD, right. Own personal views, etc. You should probably have something like that on there if you're going to be doing this.
Yep.
avoid DoD titles, insignia, uniforms, lieutenant commander uniforms, or symbols in a way that could imply DoD sanction or endorsement of content of your personal page. Also avoid misrepresenting yourself as a DoD spokesperson on your personal account. Okay. Here's the thing with this one is when, I have that product I sell. It's undercoverclip.com.
Yep.
It's a uniform item for Army and Navy. And I've been selling it for quite some time right now. And I always made it a point, one, because I had that social media guidance in my back pocket. And two, because I just didn't want to, come to the office one day and get an email from the CO saying, hey, we're bringing you up on charges. So
Right.
I walked the line with this one. I made sure I was on the correct side of the line. And I never posted anything with me in uniform. And I barely even showed my face in this thing. It was always about the product, not about me. Right. It was the product I was providing for the public. So I in the back of my head, it was always like, I don't want to put my name tag and my rank on the video or, on in a photo. And if I did have it, I was in my car. I made sure I didn't have my name tape showing or US Marine showing or anything. It was just me in my car talking about it. Hey, look, I got this item here, not representing the military or the Marine Corps or anything like that. But this guy had his entire uniform, his name tape, rank, and everything. It says US Navy on his chest, and he's over here flicking the camera off, doing not something he wasn't supposed to do. Let me see what else it says here. I think this kind of spells it out.
Think, type, post.
Think, type, and post. Right. I don't know about you, John, but for me, it's if you ever get that spidey sense, that feeling in the gut of your stomach that tells you maybe this is wrong, maybe this doesn't feel right, I don't pursue that thing. I think about it before I do it a little bit more. So
I guess it depends where you fall on the narcissistic scale, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
I feel like this is something we were talking about earlier with something else too, right? But I feel like this is one of those things where they put out a policy, right? And they're like, this is the policy, these are the rules, you should follow these guidelines. But then they don't internally take it themselves seriously enough to go out and then actually go address people, because there's tons of people on TikTok that are active duty,
Oh, yeah.
all ranks, all ages, all sexes. On TikTok, I've seen tons and tons and tons of them just doing research and trying to figure out who do I reach out to. That's how I found a few guests for the show, through TikTok, was people who are posting stuff who are military veterans or whatever. But there's tons of people online that do stuff in uniform, and it may not be this drastic, but there's some that do some drastic-ish stuff, and nobody's really policing that up. And then one day somebody pisses off the wrong person, and now they're going to go after him and make an example of him. I get it, I understand, but
yeah,
if you're going to enforce the rules, enforce the rules, and it's going to suck for everybody, right? But then that also opens up the conversation of what is actually the limits of it, what are the boundaries of it, how far can we get, setting the precedents in a way that's more interactive than just drawing a line in the sand and saying this is the rules, but then not necessarily enforcing the rules. So
right,
it's tricky.
It is, and but for me, it's always been, if it doesn't feel right, don't do it. And you have to understand that. Not you, but folks out there need to understand that if you're active duty, you have, and you are trying to earn people's respect. I think you take a step back if you're doing something silly online, and you're junior Marine, soldiers, sailors, airmen, Coast Guardsmen, whatever, and they see it and they comment on it, and they talk. People talk. It's not like they don't. And they're like, hey, did you see Sir's post on Facebook or on Instagram, Snapchat, whatever? That shit was kind of silly, huh? It was cringy, huh? And I think you take a step back when trying to earn the respect, and when you're actually trying to pass on an order, you're not going to be taken seriously. Do you really think? I mean, a while back there was that one. I don't know if you saw it. There was a gunnery sergeant online who came out with his wife, and his wife was like, it was called "He's a Marine." Have you seen that?
Maybe. I don't think I have.
It's kind of silly. She's like doing all these mannerisms of like, he's a Marine, he's loyal and faithful, and she's saluting with her wrong hand, and the gunnery sergeant is just standing behind her with like the sad face, and he's like at parade arrest, just like it was on fire through like the maybe a couple years ago, 2-3 years ago, and I recall it just going through all my Marines were talking about it. But I'm thinking about it. I'm like, that gunnery sergeant just lost the respect of everybody in his command. Who is effectively going to say when he's like, hey, devil dog, I need you to go out and clean the toilet. I'm like, oh, this fucking guy's going to tell me clean the toilet. He's over here like standing at parade arrest, all sad and shit.
Yeah.
You know, and excuse my language, but that's the things that were going through my head. That's a quick way to lose the respect of your folks, man. And that doesn't just go for active duty service members too. Like if you're in an organization, if you're working for like a respected organization and you go online and you start posting just silly stuff like on LinkedIn, which is a professional format, or a professional social media site, or even on Facebook, people have access to your stuff, right? If you're going to do dumb stuff, only send it out to a certain amount of folks. Make it private or something, right? Or just don't do it at all.
Right. Better yet, don't do it at all.
Yeah, exactly. Because you are representing whatever organization you work for. You know, so if your title says U.S. Navy, U.S. Army, and you're doing some crazy stuff, I don't know what the hell you're doing head spins on the concrete or something, then, you know, things are not going to work out well for you. You know, just think before you post, please. And, this also goes into like veterans too. I was looking up, like we have these benefits, these VA benefits, you know, some people have 100%, some people have 10%, whatever it might be. Could those things ever be taken away, revoked from us, from veterans? You know, a lot of folks think, hey, look, once I get out, I can do whatever the hell I want, you know, and I'm getting paid anyway. You know, I can, you know, whatever. But there are ways to get your benefits taken away, you know, and here, I'll pull one up here on the screen real quick. Let's see.
Yeah. I mean, if you are doing whatever you're doing, because you can indeed get out and do whatever the hell you want to do, whatever the fuck you want to do, you can do it. You're a human, you are a veteran, of course, but you're also a U.S. citizen. At that point, you've made the separation between yourself and the military community, essentially. But if you're drawing VA benefits and you're pulling in, 50% or 100% or whatever, and you're not PNT, which I don't know if PNT would save you in certain situations, but and then you're posting about you doing stuff online that goes against the medical conditions that you've been rated for, you're kind of snitching on yourself. Like, stop snitching.
You are, man, dude. And I mean, there's like a whole Reddit thing. I went through this whole thing on Reddit, just like, hey, look, do I need to, if I have a certain rating, do I need to avoid physical posting about physical fitness?
Why is that?
I'm thinking like, dude, if you have a physical rate, if you have a VA rating, there's a reason for that, because you submitted paperwork saying that you couldn't do something. Right now you're saying you can do it and you're posting about it. Don't be an idiot, man. Don't do that stuff. This one here on the screen specifically, veteran sentenced to prison for defrauding the VA in connection with receipt of disability benefits, in the amount of $429,568. Okay, this guy, he basically said he had a deficiency or he had a disability. In turn, they found out he didn't somehow. Not sure if this one was specifically the social media stuff, but there are many of them that you can just Google, VA disability fraud, social media.
Yep.
And it'll come up. You'll have this guy who was doing he was posting his workouts online. He was using a cane to walk into like the VA disability center.
Yeah.
But then he was like posting videos of him like leg pressing 600 pounds.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, dude. You can't, come on, dude. You know, you can't.
And they
no,
and they
you
actually
can't
caught
do
him
that.
outside of the VA clinic, right? Somebody had was observing him or caught him outside
Probably,
of the VA
yeah.
clinic.
Yeah. It's not like nobody's watching you, especially if you're
Ex-
making things public, you know. Don't put
Even if you're
yourself out like
not,
that.
like this is 2024, dude. There's cameras everywhere, and whether there's cameras
Yeah.
that you can visibly see on some kind of light post somewhere on the side of a building,
Right.
there's a camera in every single person's pocket on this planet right now. Well, maybe not every
Yeah.
single person, but a good majority of them. There's billions of these floating around.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you don't know who's capturing what, man. You have to be careful. So
Yeah.
the best bet is to just be honorable and just do the honorable thing and don't be a dumbass.
Yeah, exactly. And that was what I was going to get at. So if you're going to submit something like for a VA claim, don't say that, hey, I got a bad back. If you don't have a bad back and you're going freaking running, you know, whatever it is, and nobody knows. I mean, you don't wear your disabilities on your chest, right? Like you don't
Right.
have your VA claims. I get 10%, 10%. So nobody really knows. But if you're saying something and you're submitting for something and you internally know, you know, you have to have a moral compass for one.
Yep.
And maybe somebody in the VA knows, hey, like this guy is always in here for his bad back. And so they're watching you, you know, not to say that the VA is out there watching you specifically, but it's going to catch up.
Yeah.
It's
And
going to catch up, you know.
beyond that, it ripples out into the community and it makes it harder for every single other person out there who has problems, who needs VA compensation, disability compensation, because they have to go through extenuating, extreme circumstances to get their rating done because you screwed it up for everybody else.
Oh, 100%, man.
Yeah.
So this one right here that I'm sharing, it's called Justice Involved Veterans.
Can you
See if
zoom
I
in on
can-
that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm going to zoom in on this real quick.
Yep.
That good? Can't see
Yeah,
it.
I like being in the passenger seat sometimes. This is fun.
Yeah, no, this is this is a good one, right? So there's some things that get taken away from you, especially if you're incarcerated, right? Which include VA benefits,
Mhm.
right? What benefits are affected? Justice involved veterans, meaning people who are locked up, right? You have an issue with the justice system, may be eligible for VA benefits such as disability compensation, disability pension, education and training, healthcare. You know, basically all the stuff that you're entitled to when you have VA disability,
Mhm.
right? VA disability compensation payments are reduced if a veteran is convicted of a felony and imprisoned for more than 60 days. Okay, it tells you all the information down here. VA benefit pension benefits or VA disability pension benefits. VA pension disability or payments are discontinued if a beneficiary is convicted of a felony or misdemeanor effective the 61st day of imprisonment in a federal, state, or local penal institution. Okay, so this is one. If you're going to go out and do some dumb stuff, just understand, and you are a veteran, understand that this stuff could catch up to you.
Make sure you post bail
especially if
before
you're
your 60th day.
there you go. You know, but just understand that, you know, just don't go out and do dumb stuff, man. Think about it before you do something. You know, I'm all for, you know, veterans getting the benefits that they deserve. But if you're going to go out and commit a felony, nobody's like making you do it. You know, you're a person, you have a conscious decision of making that decision. And if you're going to go out and do that, hey, just understand that your VA benefits could be taken away, you know, or will be taken away on your 61st day, right, of imprisonment. So just understand that. Just want to get that out there because a lot of folks, whether it be on social media or like these felony things, a lot of folks just post it up or do things and not thinking about, they don't think about it ahead of time. You got to have that spidey sense, man, that like, hey, this doesn't feel right. You know, there's a knot in my stomach. If I do this, you know, I'm going to go out and call a sergeant major an asshole, you know, online. Maybe I shouldn't do that. And, but no,
Unless he's really
nobody's
an
telling me
asshole.
not to. No, but yeah, I mean, dude, the investigations that I've that I've seen and the charges I've seen in my career are incredible. I had somebody walk through just saying that there was quick side story now because you opened up this box now.
Sorry. Sorry, children.
There was a court case that I was a part of that this guy who was an E3, he encountered charges because some issue happened with the sergeant major, and he didn't like what happened. And mind you, this guy again was an E3, and he walked through the command deck, which we know what a command deck looks like, right? You have like usually like the admin office in the front, and there's usually a hallway where you can find the XO, the sergeant major, the CO, right? Maybe the chief of staff is there. And this guy just walked past the admin office, the admin desk at the front because nobody was there. They were just coming back from PT, and it just so happened the sergeant major was in the office and the CO was in the office, and this guy just went through and started like smacking the pictures and stuff, the command photos off the wall and every other thing off the wall, and just he's shouting racial slurs down the hallway at the sergeant major. And I'm like, what? And of course, PMO was called and all that stuff, right? The sergeant major's trying to hold his composure from not strangling this guy out. But don't do that. Like what caused this dude? I mean, he must have been like really pissed about something if he had to do that, but if he felt the need to do that. But maybe that wasn't a good idea. Maybe that wasn't a good idea. So, but yeah, all right. So real quick, I want to put a quick plug out there for our YouTube channel, Military Retirement Podcast. We're still on the hunt to that 1,000 subscriber mark. So I think we're at like 690 right now.
Yeah.
Hey, if you like with the content that we're putting out there, if you want to be a part of it at all, give us a quick like and subscribe. We really appreciate it. It really goes a long way. And we are trying to get to the Military Influencers Conference in September/October. And I know John has already locked down the tickets, and I am deficient in that. So I need to go ahead and do that. But we really want to reach 1,000 subscribers. If you can help us out with that, it doesn't cost you anything. We put all this information out there for free for the love of our fellow veterans. And we even wrote a free ebook for everybody out there who may need help in navigating their military to civilian transition. So yeah, if you could help us out, like and subscribe, it would help us out immensely.
Yeah. And if you're checking out the videos, be in for, an hour or 2 or 3, depending on how long the interviews go. But they're generally really good information. You'll hear us ask a lot of the same kinds of questions. But we kind of been dialing that in to get to the nuts and bolts, at least, of what we feel is the most important kind of topics and answers and questions that then transcend the actual question itself. So if we're asking about your beginnings in the military, we're actually asking about like how you were able to be successful and make it to military retirement after 27 years. And because there's a ton of stuff that goes on from day 0 to day, to year 27. And we're just trying to eke out those little nuggets of knowledge through these questions and through the way we do the interviews. So if you're watching them, if you're listening to them, we thank you, first of all. And second of all, if you can, even if you're not going to listen to the thing all the way through, just let it play all the way through. That really helps out the channel, and it helps to get the content out to a broader audience, the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and all that stuff. That helps to get the content out to a broader audience. And that's kind of the goal, is to broaden the audience, broaden the spectrum, so that we can then broaden the impact that we can bring to folks out there in the veteran community. So
absolutely. Yeah. And then also with that, if you want to get the free ebook that we wrote, bottom line up front. John, do you have it handy there that we can bring it up?
Yep.
Actually, I have it here. Just maybe the cover page. It's bottom line up front, what you need to know before you leave the military. 10 chapters, just kind of baseline what you should think about. because a lot of things when we left the military, a lot of things. I mean, you're basically drinking out of a water hose at that point. There's a lot going on. Where you're going to live, what you're going to do, with finding your next passion, finances, family stuff, life insurance. There's a lot to think about, and it's like, holy crap, man! Me personally, I wish I had some kind of guidance aside from like the transition readiness seminar, which is cool, but it was a week long, and it was like just a ton of information thrown at me. I wish I had something like an all-encompassing book of what things I should probably think about as I'm leaving. And that's why John and I got together and we put together this short 10 chapter booklet. It's an ebook on what you need to know before you leave the military. And it's completely free. It's completely free for anybody out there who wants to read it. It doesn't matter if you're active duty. It doesn't matter if you're a veteran, a retiree. And like the video I just put up, it doesn't matter if your grandmother wants to read it. She's welcome to read it as well.
Yep.
But yeah, and you can get it for free if you go on militaryretirementpodcast.com or thegreenlogbook.com. It'll just ask you for your email on there. And as soon as you press OK or submit, up comes the actual ebook, the full ebook. You could download it. You can read it online, whatever. You can bookmark it, but you get immediate access to the ebook online. And this is an incredible thing. I wish I had something like this when I was getting out, and only after the fact did I encounter other people starting to put information out there and then going on LinkedIn, things like that. I really didn't have a lot of guidance, and I couldn't ask my fellow active duty service members. I couldn't ask my OIC,
They don't know
what it's like to get out, because he's never gotten out. He's still on active duty. So it's best to speak to your fellow veterans about this and those who have made that transition. So a good piece of gear for anybody out there listening who may need a little bit of guidance on their way out of the military once they take off that uniform for the last time. So you can find that we have all the links up top, the greenlogbook.com, militaryretirementpodcast.com. Yeah, there you go. And we also have our Facebook group, the Military Retirement Group, which I'm happy to say we hit 2,100 members recently, and just a good group of veterans that come together and they just share good information. They have solid questions about real issues, about real questions that they might be encountering as they transition out of the military. And John and I are more than happy, and as well as all the other members in that group, are more than happy to help out, do the research and answer the questions to help the next veteran out.
Yeah.
So we thank everybody out there. Go ahead.
Yes. Super positive group, the Facebook group. It's really, really, it's overwhelmingly positive. That people in there are so supportive, and nobody's in there throwing mud at anybody else. It's really, really nice, because there's a lot of Facebook groups out there where a lot of people will throw mud and talk smack and just try to be the smartest person in the room. That's kind of the opposite in our Facebook group. That's really, really good.
And
Just
John, I will say that that group could have been right now at about 5,000 folks, but for the fact that we vet everybody who's coming in there, we look at their when they hit join group, there's a certain set of questions you have to answer, just so we can confirm that you are an actual veteran. And if it comes up and you put some crazy MOS on there, or military occupational specialty, hey, I'm going to research it. And I'm gonna actually look at it. I'm like, okay, well, this guy's putting an Air Force military occupational specialty, but he's saying he's with the Coast Guard, and these things don't match up. Declined, and you're gonna have to answer why. I mean, you don't have to answer why, but if you want to re-engage and rejoin, then you're gonna have to fix something. But yeah, I mean, if there's anything questionable, hey, look, I'm going through the profile. I'm making sure this person has an affiliation with the military somehow, some way. The amount of people that I've rejected on there who are like scam accounts is incredible. But yeah, this group is just nothing but veterans looking to help out. So everybody out there who's listening is more than welcome to come on board.
Yeah. And I'll say this for the book itself, If you are on the email list, if you already got the email that said, hey, here's your link, you can download it here. If you're interested in it, I just finished over the last, I guess it was last weekend or this past week, sitting down and recording the audio version of this book. I'm trying to figure out the best way to put it out to the public. I think ultimately this is going to go up on Amazon Kindle, and then the audio version of it will go up on audible.com. Neither of which are actually, they kind of are sponsoring and supporting the show, but only through affiliate links at the moment. But if you're interested in the audio version of it, if you don't really like sitting down and reading books, ebooks, or you don't want to print up a copy and have a paper copy of it, and you'd rather digest it as an audiobook, just reply to, I think they could reply to those emails, right? Is that possible?
Yeah, they can.
Yeah. So if you want, just reply back to that email if you're interested in the audio version of the book for right now anyway, and just put audiobook in the subject line, and we will see if we can send you the preliminary MP3. It's about an hour and a half, hour and 45. So it's less than a podcast episode. But in there, that's myself reading the entire book front to back. And then there's some little side quests that I take and little go off script a little bit here and there to kind of explain things out a little bit further, or to give some specific examples along the way. So you get some kind of added bonuses in the audio version of it. We're going to be really, really happy when we get it out to the audible.com or wherever it needs to go to for audiobooks. But until then, if you want to get the preliminary version of it, just send us an email, put audiobook in the subject, and we'll send you a copy of that MP3, and I'll get that over to you, Victor.
Absolutely. And if for some reason the email doesn't work, or you try to hit reply, it doesn't work, our email is militaryretirementpodcast@gmail.com, militaryretirementpodcast@gmail.com, or you can even email the green logbook at gmail.com, and we'll get you connected with that audiobook as well. Any way we can get out to help our fellow veterans, we're more than welcome to do that. And we're not doing this for any kind of money or anything like that. We're just doing it for the betterment of our fellow veterans, to make sure that everybody who gets out is as successful as they can be after they take off the uniform for the final time. Yeah, so that's, we're totally grateful that we've been able to find the time to do this. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. It's been a nice little experiment that we've done and put together, and I'm happy that it's done and completed, at least to this point. And of course, it's probably going to expand and grow and turn into something else at some point.
Yeah.
But for what it is right now, for being an initial offering and an initial kind of little guidebook that we can give to people to put in their cargo pockets if they want to print it off in little 4 pages per page kind of format and chop it up and do like I did in Warrant Officer Candidate School. You can put it in your hip pocket and carry it around with you. That'd be really.
Oh yeah, I'm excited for that audiobook, man. The soothing sounds of John McConnell.
I hope so. I don't know.
The quiet storm.
We'll see how it turns out. But the little off script things are pretty interesting. A couple of them. So keeps.
I'm looking forward to it, man.
I was surprised I sat down and did it in one day. Like it was nuts.
Dude, I'm in the same boat as everybody else out there listening. I have not heard this audiobook version yet, man. I'm excited. And John sent me a link. You sent me a link of it was a screenshot of the audio, right? From the audiobook. And me, like a dumbass, I'm trying to click on it. Like it won't play. I'm clicking on my screen. I'm clicking on the picture. And I'm like, what the hell is wrong with my phone? And sure enough, I came to the conclusion that it's just a picture. So yeah, I'm in the same boat as everybody else. I'm looking forward to hearing the audiobook as well, and supporting however we can. Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah. I think I got the raw version. I was gonna clean up the audio a little bit and then send it to you, but I can send you the raw version too. It's no big deal. Just a matter of sitting down and doing these things, man. This stuff takes time. It
does, and it's funny you mentioned the audiobook and how it takes time, man. I'm friends with a Marine Corps colonel. He's active duty, and he is like a 5-time author, He's a awesome dude. He used to be my boss at one point in time. Just a great dude. And he was looking for somebody to do his audiobook, his narration for the audiobook. And it just took him a whole lot of time to find somebody because he was looking for that certain voice. And I don't know
Yep.
exactly what that voice was, but in his head, he was looking for that certain voice. So he had the book already done. It was just a matter of finding somebody to read it. And he had interviewed so many people to find somebody to do that. And I think he recently found somebody, but I don't know what kind of voice it is. And I'm looking forward to hearing his book as well.
Yeah.
But it is a time consuming process to get everything done. But I love that we're doing it. This is great.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. It keeps us engaged, and it just reinforces creating our personal mission to do something after the military. This is what it's all about. It's like a very meta kind of thing. We're talking about getting out and transitioning and moving on to civilian life and finding a purpose and that kind of thing. And at the same time, we're doing it ourselves in real time as we're talking about it with you, with other people that we bring on as guests. It's very meta, very, very meta.
Yeah. And I will ask, when you read the book, the ebook, when you listen to the audiobook, if you have any suggestions on things that we can improve on, things that we can make better, things that maybe are wrong, outdated, etc., because we know that things with the VA, things with legislation, laws, and things, they change, they progress, new things get enacted all the time. So here in about a year, we may have to do a version 2 of this. But if you find that maybe we need to improve on something, we're completely open to that. No criticism, nothing like that. I mean, constructive criticism, we're open to all of that. And we're happy to change it up if we need to reflect the correct information. So we're completely open to that. If you find something like that, please feel free to email us. 100%.
Yeah, I actually sent it to my my VR&E counselor when we were doing our call, and we were talking about some of the stuff at the end of the call because we just happened to.
Yeah.
He's an not retired, but an ex-Army guy as well, and so we have this little 5 or 10 or 15-minute kind of buffer time at the end of the call after we're done talking about business. And I had mentioned it. He's like, yeah. You guys wrote a book? I was like, yeah. It's not. I mean, it's a booklet. It's not a book. At least not in my mind. But I was like, if you want, for sure, if you could check out the VR&E page and the education page, the little 1-pager that we have in there. I think we should make that a different color. Anyway, that single page about VR&E and education benefit stuff, if you could just look it over and tell me if it's bullshit or tell me if we messed anything up on that page. And he was like, yeah, man, absolutely. He's going to check it out. So yeah, just trying to get it out there, get feedback. Even if you want to tell us it sucks, you can email us that too. We're not going to probably respond to that, but but feel free. Tell us it sucks.
Hey, speaking about VR&E, you just reminded me, man. I as I was walking around the tents yesterday at the village, the Veterans Village of San Diego volunteer event, I came across a VR&E counselor. Okay, this person is an official counselor with the VA
in the flesh,
and they had met in the flesh. Yes, they are not just AI bots and stuff. So this person mentioned that California is the most backed up state right now. Because this person asked me, have you applied for VR&E? I was like, yes, I have. I applied for it last month. My VR&E appointment is not until next year, middle of 2025.
No.
And they're like, yeah, I'm not surprised. Right now, you may be one of the lucky ones where they change it up and you actually, we're farming out some folks to different, states, because California itself is so veteran heavy. And, we don't have enough people here to sustain that. So we're pushing it out to different states. I'm like, man, I've already emailed my VR&E guy twice. And he's like, yeah, we can't push it closer at all. I mean, this is what it is. I'm like, damn it, it sucks. But Florida is still pretty good. You can still get a pretty decent appointment there. But California, just for some reason, is just so backed up. So just for anybody out there listening, you may encounter that if you are applying to VR&E and you live in California. it might get pushed to like another year from now, from the time you actually receive an email back saying, "Hey, look, we have an appointment for you." So you may have to make a decision at that point. Do I need my education now? And just understand that VR&E is not an education-centered program, right?
Right.
That's just part of it. And that's one thing that this person explained to me. It's like everybody wants to go for their bachelor's and master's. People get mad when they're not approved for that because there's no follow-on education for the job that you want. So if you want to be like a marketing manager, that only really requires a bachelor's. They're not going to
Yep.
approve anything after that, right? But if you want to go and be like a lawyer and you are working on your bachelor's now, that will cover your bachelor's for the most part, and most likely cover or you can use your GI Bill for the Juris Doctorate, right? So there has to be a follow-on to whatever you're looking to use your VR&E for. It can't just be like, marketing manager. Okay, you can go work as a marketing manager, and that's the end of that. Declined, disapproved. So that's straight from this VSO rep.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I wasn't searching for this person. They just kind of introduced himself as that. I'm like, holy crap, man, you are one of these people. Okay, well, I have some questions for you,
Yeah.
So that's what it is.
Yeah, it's funny because again, mine is farmed out technically through one of the East Coast offices, and they're the ones that handle anything outside of the continental United States. And so, just based on that alone, like, I don't see why it's such a stretch to go from California to say, farm it out to a VR&E rep in Louisiana or something like that. Like, it's yes, you want
shouldn't
somebody
be.
who understands the legal stuff around California and how California works, but how much more different is it? Like, for someone to understand what happens outside of the United States in a different country, that varies from country to country to country, and they deal with everybody outside of the United States. That specific office,
Yeah.
they deal with all of the OCONUS outside of the United States people. So that means people in Germany, Italy, Spain, Portugal, Romania, like all these different places, right? Of course, they go through like usually the schooling systems that are on the bases or on the little camp or post where they're at. But
Yeah.
what else is there to know? So I think if you're from the VA, if you're part of the VR&E program or a program manager or a counselor, take that with a little consideration and see if there's a way, or if you want to reach out and we can have a discussion about it. Like, I'd love to hear your thoughts about it, because to me it just makes sense to just do that and help more veterans out a lot quicker than to sit there and be like, well, this is the policy because it's within the continental United States. Like, for me, it's bullshit. I call the bullshit card on that. But you're the VA. You got to do what you do.
Yeah. And with that, if you go on USA Jobs, there are a lot of openings for veteran services counselors. I don't know their exact titles, but they are the counselors that actually work with the VR&E, right? There are a lot of jobs, and I thought that they might be remote at one point, but they're actually assigned to different locations, right? So
Yep.
if you were in, I don't know, Illinois, it's going to be assigned to Illinois, somewhere, Chicago. There are a lot of openings. So if you are looking for a position, and sure enough, it might be open in your side of the country, hey, look into applying for that, because we definitely need a lot of folks for the VR&E as counselors, just to get this thing ramped up and moving, especially in California. None really in my area here in Southern California that I've seen. A lot of them in Northern California. I don't know where my guy lives, where, I don't know what part of California he's assigned to, but I have to assume it's somewhere here in Southern California. But yeah, there are a lot of openings. So if you're looking for a GS position, look into that.
Yeah, definitely. Not only helping out the community and helping out other veterans, but also helping yourself out with gainful employment, and actually a pretty rewarding job, I would think, doing anything like that, man, towards veterans.
Yeah, I would do it. If it was remote, I'd do it.
Yeah, if it was remote, I'd do it. Well, if they'd let me do it. But they won't let me.
You're living the life out there, dude.
Yeah, except for when it comes to employment. That's the only thing where I'm not living the life. But other than that, everything else is pretty peachy keen. So
yeah. Well, good, man. Well, I think unless you got anything else you want to pass, I think we're hitting that time, an hour and 30. And I think we put out some good information today for folks. Just to recap, don't put stuff online that you don't want to be associated with, or maybe it might catch up to you later on. Whether it be silly things on TikTok like that Navy lieutenant commander, or if you're rated 100% for a broken back and you're out doing freaking 1,000-pound squats, maybe don't post that stuff on social media, or maybe just adjust your moral compass and come correct.
Or become a comedian and do it like as a professional and get paid to make the jokes and the funny stuff and do it online and do it at no one's expense except for the expense of having a good laugh, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So
and don't be an
just be
asshole.
careful what you put online. Yeah, don't be an asshole. Just be careful what you put online, please. Military Influencers Conference this end of this year. So we're looking to hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. If you would be so kind as to go on our YouTube channel, hit like, subscribe, and become a part of the Military Retirement Group on Facebook. That would be awesome. A lot of good information shared on there. My own personal YouTube channel, thegreenlogbook.com. It's also on YouTube, The Green Logbook. And what else do we have? And the ebook, a free ebook for everybody out there who's looking to transition from military to civilian. We would love to if we could get a copy of the ebook to everybody who is actually transitioning, to all retirees, it would make me feel so much better. I mean, you just don't rely on the transition readiness seminar, though it's made to help you out. You're going to come out with a lot of questions. All right. I feel like this ebook would cover a lot of those questions because it is coming from the perspective to folks who have been there and done that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like the supplemental, like the days that you want them to give you a copy of the slides that they're presenting in the TRS or the TAP presentations, and they don't. This is kind of like the supplemental, like cliff notes, if you will, of some of the things that may get glazed over or may come at you so fast that you don't have time to write it down, or you're just not paying attention.
That's right. That's right.
Anything we can do to help, and of course make it better along the way, and take your suggestions and expand it and do bigger things with it. We'll see where it goes. Who knows? But that's all I got. Thank you for paying attention, and we appreciate every single one of you out there for listening, for watching, for supporting what we're doing. And we'll try to bring you more of this. If you know somebody or are in contact with somebody who would potentially be a good guest, go ahead and shoot them to our webpage, the military-retirement-podcast.com, military-retirement-podcast.com. That's military-retirement-podcast.com. And have them send us an email or get in contact with us. Because we're always looking for guests, and we're always looking to schedule interesting intellectual people to bring on to talk about some of the stuff, so that we're not just flapping our meat holes all day long. But yeah, we're definitely always looking for guests. And if you know somebody, we're asking you from a networking perspective, if you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who would be a good fit to come on and talk about their story or talk about some really good veteran stuff, just let us know.
Heck yeah. And with that, it was a great podcast out here.
All right, out here.